Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me again on another episode of Check This Out. On this installment of Can a Truck Driver Cook? We have a slightly different question. Should a truck driver cook? Here's why. Let me start from the beginning. Recently I made a beautiful miso soup, which was delicious as always, but every time I make miso soup I have a problem, that being miso, particularly leftover miso, where I'm never quite sure exactly what to do with it. Yes, I could make more miso soup, but with only 2 of us in the home, there is only so much miso soup that one needs at a time. I've long known that the Japanese have used miso in a wide variety of savory and sweet dishes. It's my understanding that miso is as nearly ingrained in the Japanese culture as rice is. I've heard that at one time there was a very popular marriage proposal even in Japan, where a man would ask the woman, "Will you make my miso soup?" That's because miso was so closely associated with domestic life in Japan. Nearly every Japanese family at the time made their own miso. So the asking of, "Will you make my miso soup?" implies the intimacy of a family environment. Japan has nearly 1,000 variations of miso, with some shops devoted entirely to selling miso. Even with all of those varieties, it seems that they all evolve from basically 3 types: soybean miso, rice miso, and barley miso. For the most part, these are regional variations, but they all have one thing in common: koji. Koji fungus, to be precise. No matter what type of grain you use, without koji, there is no miso. But I digress, as usual. Hey, sue me. I like food history. Here in Canton, Ohio, we basically have 2 types of miso, red and white. That's it. I use both in my soup. I like the richness of the darker red and the slight sweetness and mildness that comes from the white. Since I had more white than red, I figured that I would do some type of dessert. That's kind of traditional. I recall that I had seen a caramel sauce made with miso. So I thought about the salty, somewhat caramel flavor profile of miso, and if I use brown sugar in place of granulated sugar in my ice cream custard mix, I could maybe have an ice cream with a salted caramel type of vibe to it. So let's answer our question from the beginning of the monologue. Should a truck driver cook miso ice cream? I say hell yes. Let's get started. Okay, here we go with miso ice cream. I know a lot of my Asian viewers are probably laughing right now saying we use miso in all kinds of desserts, and that's true. But here, I've never made anything but miso soup with it. And I've never used it in a sweet situation. I've always done savory with it, and I usually end up with a bunch of extra miso that I don't know what to do with. So I wanted to come up with something a little bit different and see how it works on the sweet side. For our miso ice cream, we only need 5 ingredients. Number 1, some milk, 300 milliliters of heavy cream. Also, the milk was 300 milliliters. I didn't do the conversion. I'll do it in the description down below. Next, 200 grams of light brown sugar. Next on the agenda, we need 6 egg yolks. This is going to be a classic custard technique. We're going to heat the cream in the milk, get it up to a strong simmer, temper our eggs that have been mixed with the brown sugar till it was light and fluffy, pour it in slowly, temper the eggs, pour it back into the pan, and then heat it until it becomes a custard. Just standard ice cream custard or any other type of custard technique. Then last but not least, the star of the show, the one that makes me slightly nervous, 75 grams of white miso. That's it. These 4 here are just going to make a classic custard, and then we're going to add our miso to it. Put it into the refrigerator, let it ripen for a little bit, then we're going to bring it back out, put it into the good old Edge Star ice cream maker. Had this one for years. I love this thing. I don't have to worry about little frozen pots to put in on the inside or messing around with ice and salt. This has a compressor in it, and it will actually make ice cream like in a professional setting. Enough of that. Let's start getting our custard together. Okay, let's go. Let's get this thing started. I've got the cream and the milk warming up on the stove. While that's going, let's go ahead and take our 6 egg yolks and our 200 grams of light brown sugar. Now we want to mix that until it's really nice and fluffy. We want those egg yolks to become a pale color. So let's put the spurs to it and get going. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. Nice and creamy. They've increased in volume. They're a much paler color now. That looks like what we want. Now let's go over and check on the cream and see how it's doing. Then we'll get these tempered and start working on getting this thing thickened up then. Our milk and cream mixture here has reached 165, 170. So now we're going to temper our egg sugar mixture, a little bit of cream at a time. We don't want scrambled eggs, do we? All right, that should be warm enough. Now we can go ahead and put that back into the saucepan. Put it back on the stove and then we'll start bringing this up to a custard. There's our custard mixture. We've got it over a medium heat. And we're just going to keep whisking until it thickens. Okay, I think that's about as far as I'm going to take this one. This is not an extremely thick custard. Most of our thickening is going to come through the freezing process. So I think the eggs are cooked. I don't think I'm going to get any thicker than that. Now we got the heat turned off. I'm going to give that just a second to cool off a little bit before I put the miso in. And as my Asian friends know, we don't boil miso and we don't boil kombu either, do we? There we go. I've had that sitting for a few minutes. I just don't want this miso too hot. So let's go ahead and put in our 75 grams of miso and get that whisked in thoroughly. I think that should do it. I guess it'd be okay to give it a little taste here and see what our final product's going to be like. I should be able to get a flavor profile here. Let's try some. Oh my god, oh my god. That is absolutely delicious. The miso's not too strong. There's a little bit there in the background. You can tell it's miso. There's enough there, but it doesn't overwhelm. And with the brown sugar, it almost has like a salted caramel feel to it. This is absolutely delicious. When this is frozen, this is going to be fantastic. All right, well, what we need to do now, I'm going to go ahead and pour this into a bowl. And we're going to refrigerate this for about 3 hours. You really want all the flavors to meld together for a while. That's why you let it set and let it cool down in the refrigerator, because we want the miso and the brown sugar and the cream and the milk all to kind of get to know each other a little bit. Makes a deeper flavor, a more smooth consistency. So let's go ahead and get this into the refrigerator. A few hours, we'll come back, put it in the ice cream maker, and get that going.
2 hours later.
Now that our custard is cooled down, I went ahead and transferred it to the ice cream container. Let's go ahead and put it into the machine. Put the dasher in, put on the lid, and get the motor on there. Hit power. Says that we have an hour here. And hit start. Let's see if we can get a look at it down inside there. It's kind of hard to see inside this thing. There we go. Not much to see there, but in an hour there should be something to see. We should have some miso ice cream. Okay, let's check back in about an hour. Well, the machine just stopped. Let's open it up and see what we've got. There you have it. Man, that looks fantastic. This needs to go into the freezer now and ripen a bit or harden up, but I have to have a taste of this. That is delicious. Almost tastes buttery with the brown sugar and the miso. I don't know if my palate is changing and starting to become a little more Asian because of the egg fried rice, the ramen, the miso soup, but I'm developing more and more of an appreciation for the Asian flavors. So I don't know if it's me or if everybody will find it as delicious as I think this is. So let's go ahead and get it in the freezer, leave it in there for about 4 hours, plate it up and come back and take a look at it. Okay, well there's the finished product. Man, I didn't even really know how to decorate this thing for the beauty shot. I really didn't. It doesn't need any toppings. The flavor is so rich. It's so unique. I wouldn't even know what to pair it with. It is just perfect, just like this. I gotta have one more taste of it. This is hard to describe. I know I had a couple other taste tests throughout the video, and I'll probably have another one after it's over too. You gotta give this a try. If you have some leftover miso, use it for this. If you don't have any leftover miso, go out and get some. It's not very expensive. You can find it at any Asian market and probably at a lot of the big mega stores also. So hey, like once again guys, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate all the subscriptions I got this week. Please keep it up. Every one of them helps out a lot. So take care, keep cooking, and we'll see you next time on Check This Out.